Hi, and welcome back to Kleivset Farm. If you're new here, I'm Natasha. In this video, I'm going to show you how I identify male or female chicks, and I hope this helps you. So first up for sexing are my Japanese Bantams. These guys are about 2 to 3 weeks old, so it's still very early to tell, but there are some slight differences you can notice at this age. First up is the comb. In single comb breeds like the Japanese Bantam, they become very obvious by 4 to 5 weeks. We can already start to see the differences so early here. This comb, stay in focus here. See, this comb is nice and long and it does have a good amount of spikes on it. We'll be able to compare later, but it has already started growing. So this is starting to indicate that this is a little cockerel. The other thing to look at is the wattles. Just turn you around here. Oh. Now, you can see that's the slightest development of wattles already. You can see on both sides that the wattles are already starting to develop. This is another sign that this is a little cockerel. I don't do anything like wing sexing or hanging them upside down. Those methods just aren't reliable. So what I find reliable is the comb and the wattles. At this age, it's still a bit early to tell for saddle feathers, which are these feathers in here, or the hackles, which are up in here. They're still too downy to tell. So I focus on the comb and wattles, and I do believe that this is going to be a little boy. So I'm going to put a leg band on it, which I just use little cable ties. So I just use these small cable ties, as they are still too small to get their official leg bands, which I get through my local chicken club, the Norwegian race club. So these are the bands for the males of the Japanese Bantams. They're a 13mm ring, but this will just still slide straight off, and I'm not committed to putting one on yet. The females get a size 11 because they will end up being a bit smaller. But for now, we are going to just pop on a little green cable tie. I'll just secure the loop first and then put it over its foot. Get the fourth toe in there. Now just do a fit check. It doesn't need to not slide off at all, but it shouldn't easily slide off. Cut off the end so it's nice and short, so it's harder to get pulled on and make it too tight. So the second Japanese Bantam we have is this little white one. So again, we look at the comb. This one does have a shorter comb and fewer spikes. However, get in close and see if you can see the color is already starting to turn a slighter shade of pink as opposed to this orange that's on the top. This one's a bit unclear, but it is giving cockerel vibes. When we have a look underneath at its wattles, where it's already started to get some wattle development. Move the feathers. You can see that it is actually a flap and not just flat. So that indicates to me that it is a little cockerel. But again, at this stage, it's still very much too early to tell. So we just pop a little band on it, and we'll check back in if I'm right in a couple of weeks. And now for the third of the Japanese Bantams. Again, we look at the comb. It's not looking very developed. However, it is looking a bit thicker than what I would like. Only has 4 points on it. Less points can indicate a pullet. However, when we look at the wattles, the wattles are telling a bit of a different story here. They are already a little flap and starting to look a bit pink. So I suspect so far we have 3 cockerels. This one gets a green band as well. The last of our Japanese Bantams, this guy. So again, we look at the comb. See in this comb, there is no indication of any pink that you can see. It's all just looking the same sort of color as like the nose. That's indicating to me that this is a little pullet. It's also quite thin still, but that is definitely an age thing. Let's have a look at the wattles. There is wattles there, but they are not much more than bare skin. Can't really get my nail underneath. A little flap there. And look from underneath. There's not much there. It is mostly just bare patch of skin. So I suspect that this is a pullet. However, I would never sell anybody a pullet at 2 weeks old, claiming that I can tell. I can't pen sex, so my best indicators are the comb, the wattles, and then the feathering as they get older. So moving on to the older chicks now. These are 5-week-old Silverudds Blue, and as you can see, yeah, fully feathered out, which is nice. So we, again, start looking at the comb. Yes, this comb is larger than what we saw in the 2-week-olds. However, if we have a look, this orange piece at the back is still not red, and it's a very thin comb. Hasn't gotten any wider, and it's in relation to the head, it's not very big yet. So this is indicating a pullet. If we take a look underneath the chin at the wattles, you'll see that these are barely more than just a bare piece of skin on both sides. There's no flap and no signs of redness. So that is another indication that this is a pullet. We spin them around here. Spin her around here. Move your wing out of the way. These feathers here are the saddle feathers. As you can see, we're still growing lots of feathers in. However, we spruce up her tail a little bit. You'll see that these are all rounded and it'll just follow the flow of the tail. The same with the hackle feathers, which are the feathers just at the base of the neck. These are all rounded as opposed to pointy. So this, I would say with great confidence, is a little Pullet. And lucky for her, she has a home lined up for her. Now this is a 5-week-old cockerel of a Silverudds Blue. First thing we notice is that comb is already very red and has gotten quite large. Look at it from the front, we can see that it's thickened. It's already started to thicken quite a lot in those spikes especially, and it's very red. And then moving on under the chin to the wattles, you can see that it's a little flap as opposed to the other one, which was just a bit of a naked patch. And they've started to go red. On both sides. So it's a little flap. This guy's a bit slower to feather out, so he doesn't have much in the way of hackle feathers. So that makes it a bit harder to tell for this. If you're looking at a 4 to 5 week old, this is quite normal. So the hackle feathers aren't giving us much information here. Let's have a look at these saddle feathers. He's a bit slower to feather out than our Pullet earlier. We've still got lots of growth. But if you follow the lay of the feet, spruce his tail up, the feathers in his saddle will start to grow down. These haven't started to do that yet, just because he's a bit late feathering out. It's okay, we don't hold that against you. However, his comb and wattles is a clear, definite indicator that this is a little cockerel. We can also talk about attitude. Cockerels often will play fight with each other and be a lot more rambunctious. So if you just sit around watching them, a lot of the time their attitude will give them away first. However, sometimes you have hens that are a bit bossy, especially if you do have a bit of a line that is known to be a bit more aggressive or flighty. Even the pullets will demonstrate that behavior early. These guys are quite calm, so I don't see too much play fighting even from the cockerels. However, if I do see it, it is definitely cockerels that do it. So here, side by side, you can see the definite difference in the combs. This one is a lot thicker and redder. This one is thinner, smaller, and not red. Get them to both turn sideways. So absolutely no growth in the wattles, and slight growth with pinkness starting to show in these wattles. Harder to tell in the feathering in the neck and in the saddle feathers at this age. But just with these differences in the comb and wattles on a cockerel and a pullet, I hope this helps you identify your flock and make good decisions going forward.